If you go to Google Maps, you can quite frequently drop into Street View anywhere outside of a town, large or small, and you'll more often than not find that there's no room for cyclists and runners. Now, Ireland is a beautiful country, full of hills, nature, and majestic views. In an ideal world, it would have great countryside roads, allowing for people to run and cycle between towns to fully experience their own country. If you go almost anywhere in the Netherlands or Belgium, you'll find that there are clearly indicated cycle routes, and quite a few towns become hubs for people traveling the country by bike. And it's not just the locals, it's quite a few foreigners as well. Just load up the European cycling routes website called Eurovelo, and if you zoom in a bit, you'll notice the long distance routes with the thicker lines and more localized routes, which are the thinner red and orange ones. And when you pan over to the Republic of Ireland, you'll notice the stark difference between not only its neighboring country, but with almost the entirety of the north of continental Europe. Better road planning should be regulated and ensured to make roads more accessible and safer for longer distance traveling that doesn't involve vehicles. When people are confined to running around their local park, of course people are going to get frustrated with running, as half of the fun of running and cycling is exploring new places after all. Running a bit further every time, finding trails or nature reserves, or setting challenges like reaching a village that you've never been to before. And it just sucks when you have to either endanger yourself or endanger vehicles that have to try to maneuver out of the way because these roads are just not wide enough. It might not matter much in the middle of nowhere where traffic might be sparse, but outside some of the larger towns, you might get traffic spikes at certain points of the day, and people commuting by bike or wanting to walk or run to their neighboring village an hour away might be discouraged from going when they have no space to move. So I'm going to show you a few videos that I recorded to paint a picture of the problem, and then we'll come back to discuss the current state of things and what's being done so far.
We run out of road. Bit of an issue. It's quite narrow. The cars coming on the other side. Cars from this lane can't really move out of the way. So it's quite dangerous, especially if it gets any narrower than this. Be really careful. I've literally seen cyclists come down this road, and usually the cars will move out of the way if they have a chance, but if there's cars coming the opposite direction, right, you can't really move out of the way, and it's quite dangerous. There really is a need for proper infrastructure here. It's terrible. Look at the space. My legs used up. This isn't a lane. Jesus Christ! We're in Boyle in Roscommon and we've run out of road again. It is tight, literally no space to run over here. Just step up the infrastructure game and get stuff paved up, right? So we've already devolved into this grass path. How long more is it going to take us to reach basically the point where it becomes impossible? And we've reached the point where it becomes harder and harder to run on. Like, the width of this is basically the width of my body plus maybe a couple more centimeters on each side, but then we'll have that issue if too many cars are coming on both sides, then it becomes much harder for them to actually move out of the way, right? What am I supposed to do here? Look! Mental! Absolutely mental. We can deal with this. Look at this. This is great. problem is when it's too small, that part of you hangs over the line. That's when it's dangerous. Here we have a section where that clearly happens. Here, my arms, everything is clearly overshooting it. And here comes a car. And it has to move out of the way, but it can't move out of the way because the car's coming in the opposite direction. Turn the height around grass when there is grass, but it might as well be a bog or something, right? We'll have to jump to safety. It's not cool, man. Just expand it a bit more. Just a bit more.
I'm in Boshoven, just southwest of Eindhoven in the Netherlands right now, and I wanted to point out something really interesting. Now, the street is obviously too small to hold two cars going one in each direction, yet the way they solve it is just make one lane, one shared lane, and then have at least a bit of space to have a bicycle or person running on each side, and it works absolutely flawlessly. You already see this one lane system in a lot of roads in Ireland and in the UK. Why not just apply it in a better way where basically you build them a tiny bit wider, and you have this extra space to walk, to run, to cycle, so many forms of exercise, so many ways of getting to new places, basically exploring and doing longer style exercise, right? And I think it just makes sense. It just needs to be incorporated properly into city planning codes so that whenever they pave or build new roads, this is considered from the ground up. In summary, what I'm trying to say is that instead of trying to cram 2 lanes into a small road, either enforce road planning to always pave wider roads with a bit of overflow, or opt for a single, slightly wider lane for cars to share, and have lanes for bikes and pedestrians on both sides. A combination of these would probably be preferable depending on the road type, amount of traffic, and proximity to towns and cities. According to the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, the count of pedestrian fatalities killed in road traffic accidents is roughly the same in Ireland as in the Netherlands. The staggering thing is that the Netherlands has more than 3 times the population of Ireland, as well as more than 3 times the amount of privately owned passenger vehicles. This is why I think road design plays a larger role than we think. According to the HSE, around 60% of adults in Ireland are overweight or obese, one of the highest in Europe. There is a policy and action plan created in 2016 to tackle the problem and reduce the levels of overweight and obesity over the next 10 years. That concludes in 2025, so I'm very curious to know how much progress has been made. The action plan, of course, tackles things like food and physical education at school, but more importantly, Table 1 does mention that urban planning that caters for cycling, play, and other active transport is an effective intervention. So it's good to know that it's on the table. A public consultation was launched in 2022 to ask the general population whether they would want a network of new cycle routes across the country. Unfortunately, the target seems to be to connect existing large cities instead of transforming how roads are planned. The NCN is a massive step in the right direction, however, and should be built regardless. Having a separate cycling network that doesn't run on the roads themselves would be amazing. Yet, what about all the roads that aren't on the network? That's where I believe better road planning should take place, taking a page from the Netherlands' way of paving roads. The page states that the consultation has concluded and more information would be available later in the year. Yet, I couldn't find anything about decisions made or the current status of things. There is also also another publication from the Department of Transport from February 2023 titled The National Sustainable Mobility Policy. They aim to deliver at least 500,000 additional daily active travel and public transport journeys by 2030. This is huge, but does it talk about improving the roads? Fortunately, improving road safety is one of the goals and priorities of the plan. The PDF talks about mobility safety and infrastructure, as well as other topics such as decarbonization, public transport, behavioral change, and much more. The only pitfall is that they talk about this from a very top-down approach, but there is no mention on how they will change the road planning itself, the procedures, the templates, depending on road types, etc. I guess it's not easy when there's a lot of departments involved, but there's no way they'll achieve their goals without proper collaboration and better communication, not only between themselves, but with the public as well. If I'm finding it hard to find current status updates, no doubt other people that are trying to figure out what's going on right now are going to find it hard as well. You might be wondering, wouldn't changing road planning cost a lot of money? This is a short published by the Propel Bikes channel on YouTube, which I think explains it in a really clear way.
When they talk about, the bicycle infrastructure would be expensive if we did it, we can't afford to do it. I mean, bicycle infrastructure is the cheapest infrastructure you can build. The way that they did it here was not that they just went and redesigned the whole city overnight. They put in good quality bicycle infrastructure design guidelines for the traffic engineers so that when a street was due to be resurfaced, and that happens about every 25 to 30 years, they would bring it up to the latest standard. This is why it's so absolutely critically important that cities get the design guidelines correct now, because everything they're building now is going to be around for 30 years.
So yeah, let's hope for better roads in the future. If you're in a position where you can chat with officials, ministers, or other people that might have influence over this plan, I would really recommend raising your voice just to see what's going on with both of those proposed plans that we talked about. And yeah, basically trying to raise awareness for this to not only improve the safety of roads, but also to lower obesity rates and hopefully even just motivate better, more active, healthier lifestyles. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.